Welcome, everybody. I'm Rick DiClemente from the Pittsburgh area of Star Self Astrology, and tonight is episode 9 in our little Astrology Unplugged. This is usually a lot of talk about astrology. I like to call it a fireside chat. However, tonight is a very, very, very special night, as you know, since we had this very weird thing called an election just a couple of days ago. And I have realized that I can give you many, many of my opinions, and they're really worth a nickel each, like everybody else's. So I'm going to try to restrain myself to astrological insights. Today's been almost unreal, the feedback I'm getting from people all over the country. It's a shocking time. I'm going to try to give you astrological insight. I have the great benefit of working alongside Liza Jane, who has tremendous knowledge astrologically and socially. So, I've broken tonight's discussion down into many different categories. One of the topics to talk about is the old America is dying. And you've known about this a long time. I don't know if it'll die. I don't know if it'll be reborn, but that's part of this. The old paradigm of what America is dying out. I don't want to make predictions, but we're going to talk astrologically what's happening. It seems to me that what's gone on is we have tried in so many ways to get this culture to come out of its stagnancy, its indifference, its apathy, and it seems that this election has done so. Revolution is brewing, and I don't mean any kind of violent revolution. I mean revolution of thought, new ways of thinking. We are a new country. We are a new world. It is starting to happen. Now, I read some really nice stuff today by the wonderful author, astrologer Rick Levine, who said that reality TV has become political TV. I think that's very evident. If you'll go back about a year and a half ago with me, and I write mainly on Facebook these days, I wrote that during that time, about a year and a half ago, Jupiter and Neptune were opposite each other. And Jupiter and Neptune, when they're combined, they are very symbolic of strong religious, spiritual inspiration, belief, and faith. But when they're opposite, or when they're at a right angle, they become more triggered on the shadow side. And they can become see what you want to see, living in a dream world, living in a bubble. So when those two massive planets started into their oppositions was Mr. Trump came on the scene. So when Mr. Sanders came on the scene. One might say that the inspiration translation was Mr. Sanders, while the delusional aspect was Mr. Trump. I'm not going to hide myself here. I am not pro-Hillary. I'm definitely pro-Sanders, and I'm definitely anti-Trump in almost every way possible. I will work to help him. I will work as soon as he goes astray. I will work to impeach him. I'm going to show you his chart. It is not a good chart. It is not slightly not good. It's just not good in lots of ways. I'm going to show you why. This does not mean I'm pro-Hillary and being sour grapes. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. Now, what Mr. Levine also said in his article today is that the dinosaurs are dying. And I think that's very clear when you analyze everything astrologically. What's happening, and we keep seeing this, is that the bad is really rising, the corruption, the extinction, the decay is really rising, or we might say it's lowering, and at the same time, the spiritual movement is going up. It's very vividly clear that we're on this huge seesaw right now. Things are going down and getting bad, and things are going up and they're getting good, and there's no way to tell what will happen. And I'm not talking about anything about spiritual intervention. I'm talking about what the facts are. Now, I've seen for months, at least 6-8 months, that Mr. Trump's chart was in much more favorable aspect during the election, and it actually came true, even though he didn't get the popular vote. He is what the people wanted. Now, I don't know if any of you have watched the news tonight, but it's almost unreal to see him sitting in the Oval Office with the president. I mean, it's just a shocking thing that you can't unsee. All right. One of the things I have noticed, and I think is very clear, people have confused political correctness with evolution. Yes, I don't want people ending all soccer games 0-0 and everybody gets a trophy because people are too timid to take a loss. I'm not talking about that ridiculous type of political correctness. But I think one of the great things that happened, one of the significant things that happened with Mr. Trump is a lot of people got sick and tired of political correctness, and he came along, gave them permission to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and it's very sad. Because along with it, evolution got thrown out. And I think you could see that in some of the followers. So we want to take time with level heads and think it through and bring back and continue with our evolution. Get rid of ridiculous political correctness, but we certainly do want to move forward with love and inclusion, not exclusion. It's one of the clearest things I'm seeing here. I asked myself, with all the correction that we have seen over the past 8 years since Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008, what have we done to respond? What have we done as a society, as a United States citizen? What have we done? Well, the big thing we've done is we've connected on Facebook and on Twitter, and we're doing things like tonight, and that's a wonderful thing because we're becoming more of the one brain. And I asked myself, what happens when an entity dies? Any entity. What happens when an entity dies is the whole doesn't take care of the whole. The whole starts to try to obstruct part of itself, tries to live without a part of itself. But as we know, the whole is stuck with the whole. The whole needs to keep feeding the whole and be attentive to what's happening to the whole. And a lot of what we've been doing in this country is ignoring. We had the 60s repeated over the past 4 years. We've been ignoring racial problems. We've been ignoring sexual problems. We've been ignoring healthcare problems. These things are really becoming paramount. And it's kind of like Americans are kind of numb. We kind of paw across this. And we just, what does it take before we act? We keep getting these awfully scary images of icebergs melting and glaciers melting. What are we going to do? And it seems to me it's pretty clear in the intuitive sense that what just happened is going to turn us on. It has clicked. It's going to turn us on. And I reiterate, we need a Gandhi-like revolution, a peaceful revolution, but yet a strong one that's for the people. And when I say for the people, I told Liza yesterday, I'm not looking for some fanaticism. I want people to have something to eat, somewhere to sleep, and some way to get to a doctor. And I'm not going to put some ism on it that we can all go nuts on. Now, the thing that's happening, I'm going to show you in the planets right now, which is very intriguing. Jupiter is now opposite Uranus. So let me finish with Jupiter-Neptune. So when that Jupiter-Neptune brings about its negative side, what it does is it becomes a cult. People with Jupiter-Neptune in their chart are very tempted to join a cult because you have the blind faith of Jupiter and the blind faith of Neptune combining, and the one says, let's do it, and the other one says, why not? Well, they're very dangerous together because they're both limitless. And they both say, why not? There's no reality to them. So what can happen is when the other shoe falls and you start to see the reality of where you really are, that's when you wake up to the reality of maybe where you put yourself living in a castle in the sky. Now what's happening is Jupiter and Uranus are opposite each other. That's a completely different story. I'll show you. Okay, these are the planets right now. Can you see them? Okay. See how Uranus is at 21 and Jupiter is at 13. Okay. This is a very wild combination in the natal chart. This is the planets at the moment. Therefore, this is the planets during Trump's acceptance. This is the birth chart of his presidency. Jupiter and Uranus combined are, hey, let's go do it. And Uranus, why not? Well, let's go do it. Well, let's do it even bigger. Hey, let's do it. Wow, well, why not? This just fanatical type of revolution without thought, without planning, without sensibility. It's just wild, elbows flying revolution. It's not necessarily violent, but it's very reckless. And the thing is that they both make a right angle to Pluto. This is the story. This is the story of the next 4 years. Pluto at a right angle to Jupiter, Uranus. And what Pluto is going to do to Jupiter, Uranus is a very deep story. Pluto is the plutocracy. It's the laws of the land. It's the power of those that are in power. It's going to try to corral it. It also needs to corral it. But Jupiter and Uranus don't want to hear from Pluto. Jupiter and Uranus just want to do their thing. They don't want to hear from Pluto or Saturn or big social constraints. So you've got this huge dynamic going on for the next 4 years of the people rebelling, and not in a sensible Gandhi way, but in a wild way, trigger finger way, crazy way, knee-jerk reaction. And Pluto squaring it, so you're going to have an experienced astrologer will show you that you're going to have a lot of both things come out. You're going to have some big, very productive things come out of this, and you're going to have some very destructive things come out of this. But this is the main dynamic we're working with. These three planets are very prevalent on January 20th during the chart of the inauguration. So, the big thing that we've been dealing with is this, and I'm going to go and show you how this came about. In the United States chart. Now, nobody knows when the United States was born. I use a 217 in the morning. There are about 7 different charts that people use. Nobody knows what time the U.S. was born. There's good reason to believe that some of our early founders were very fine astrologers, and they set up some very fine positions here with the planets, keeping in mind that in 1776, there was no Uranus, there was no Pluto, and there was no Neptune. Mars, natural home, first house. Venus, natural home, second house. Mercury, natural home, third house. Beautifully resourceful Venus, Jupiter, Sun in Cancer. This is unbelievably beautiful. This is the plains of Nebraska and Iowa, and the land teeming with harvest. Only to find later on in the 18th century, we find Uranus to be so strongly placed, as well as Pluto and Neptune. But this Uranus is extremely significant. What we found, I believe, was the 1780s when we discovered Uranus. This is what makes the United States neurotic, disposable. Everything's going to happen real fast. It also keeps us shallow, and it keeps us addicted to our devices and our TV. But the big thing is this. Now, in this chart, barring the real birth time, I've put 0 Cancer rising. We are a Cancer country, and all of these planets are going to be at the same position of the zodiac The only thing that would change a little bit according to the birth time is the moon placement might move a degree or so. This is the United States chart. We just don't have it rotated properly. And you'll see in this type of chart, we see 4 planets in Cancer rising. All right, let's talk about that for a moment. Now, I have articles called, I just published it this week on Facebook. You could find it on my website called Vulnerability. That is a sleepy title, but that article tells exactly why the main problem is the United States. The fact that the United States is a Cancer country, Cancer has wonderful upside and a pretty not so good downside. The wonderful upside of being a Cancer country, just like Canada is you care about the small, you care about the family, you care about the feelings, you're very provincial. You take care of your own. But the negative side, which that article goes into greatly, is we play whack-a-country. When another country starts to rise, we get nervous and we push it down. What's happening is very clearly in the United States chart. This age of us playing whack-a-country has got to end. It's just got to end. I keep saying it. The country will die if we don't do it. And what's happening next, and we just took a great big step 2 days ago, is our enemies, the ones that we know, and the ones that were friends that are turning into enemies, are going to stop playing ball with us. We've already got countries that have told us that Mr. Trump is not welcome on their soil. This is very heavy duty. Why is this happening? Well, here's the reason why. When I go to the United States chart, Pluto has been in this area. In our lifetime as Americans, Pluto started here and it's gone all the way around. It takes about 250 years. 250 years. It's gone all the way around, all through our different crises. And Pluto now is right around here. It says 15 degrees here. Pluto is right here. As you can see, it is 11 degrees from returning to its original spot. That means several things. Pluto's in the 7th house. Pluto has opposed Mercury. It has opposed our sun. It has opposed Jupiter. It has opposed Venus. So this is why since 2008, when Pluto crossed this line, we've had Pluto in our face. And all these years I've been doing astrology, I've watched Uranus and Neptune and Mars and Jupiter, etc. But these past 8 years has been nothing but Pluto because Pluto is dominating the scene. What is Pluto doing? A couple things. Notice what it did when it just crossed. 0, 1, 2 degrees. Venus is our money. Do you know anything that happened to our money and financial situation in 2008, 2009? There's your crash. Pluto hitting our sun in the last couple of years. We are in the middle of an identity crisis. That's what this means. This is both bad and good. This is our opportunity to decide what we're going to really be, not the myths anymore. That's why so many myths are dying. And we're changing them to be more about reality. A lot of people are tossing out Columbus Day, putting in American Indian Day, whatever they call it, indigenous people. So as Pluto continues its opposition to all 4 planets in the 7th house, one of the things about the 7th house is its relationships, its marriage, its open enemies. In astrology, that means who are you enemies with that you're aware of, not the hidden ones. And what Pluto does is if you're not dealing with them properly, which means use and not abuse, they will uprise against you. You notice any of that lately? As I told Liza yesterday, how many ISIS people are up there killing people in Switzerland? Nobody. How many ISIS people killing people in Uruguay? Nobody. How many of them are after us? This is why. This is not in defense of the Middle East, but it's clear that it's about us abusing our energy. One of the main things that's got to change in our entity, we have to change how we see the world. Our mindset needs to change. Now, Carter tried it. Bernie Sanders tried it. We seem to be more comfortable with a hawk. Why? Because we're a cancer country. We want to be defended at any cost. If you know cancers in your life, they will defend themselves and their nest at any cost. And sometimes the cost is too high. That's what's happening now. That's one of the knee-jerk reactions you saw with the Trump followers, is he gave this impression, I'll bomb them, I'll bomb their kids. If somebody hits you once, hit them back 10 times. I think that appealed to a lot of the white men who, in a landslide vote, supported him. White men got him elected. The women didn't help. They helped some. But it's got to do with that existential, deeply rooted sense of, are we safe? Are we safe? And we have been put to sleep in so many ways, geographically. We don't have a history. We're geographically safe. Two big oceans, two big mild countries. Europe's over there. The Middle East is over there. Well, when you travel in Europe, as I'm sure many of you have, you look back across the sea, you see a country, the United States, is very young, very youthful, babies. You look across Europe, France, Spain, Italy, you see old genes. You see people who've been around a long time. They've been conquered. They know they're vulnerable. But in America, we're not vulnerable. Nothing can happen to us. Boom, 9/11. So this is the mindset that now we've got to start including other countries in our mindset instead of thinking that we're special and we're over here and they're over there. Nothing can happen to us. So defending ourselves is something new to us. It's something new. Where are we going to find our heroes? Where are we going to find the heroes? I mean, we may have been naive in the 60s. We had Rin Tin Tin and Sky King, and we had Lone Ranger, but we had heroes. We had people that were our models. And now any kind of model gets laughed at. We have become so cynical about such things. And I think now you're going to start to see it, because you're going to start to see it happening. I think cynicism has eaten itself and is coming to an end. The big thing in need during a identity crisis is a change of mindset, and it's a change of the way you value things. Now, when I get to Mr. Trump's chart, I want to show you some fascinating things. Now, I want to tell you something. When you look at a chart and you're a realistic astrologer, there are many things in the chart that could go this way, it could go that way. It's debatable. You need to talk to the person, and it's gray, most people. But when you look at Mr. Trump's chart, it's very clear. There's no room for interpretation. Mr. Trump is a used car salesman. Period. I stand by it. Argue with me if you want to be. Is he going to do something different to rise above it? I certainly hope so. I don't think he's got it in him. But I hope to God I'm wrong. Let me show you why. This is an accurate chart of Donald Trump. Now, when you have a Gemini personality, Sun in Gemini. These are lighthearted, playful people. The males are very playful, entertaining, very smart. They're not usually very deep. They're not deep emotionally. They're inconsistent, and they're somewhat slippery. Somewhat slippery, but I say that in a nice way. Okay? They're not slippery because they're trying to get away with something. They're slippery because they're just not made to fuse. They're not made to fuse with things. How many times have you seen a Gemini get into something, it gets a little deeper than they think, and they backtrack and get out of it? So they're kind of slippery like that, like Bob Dylan. But in Mr. Trump's case, it's much different. Okay? You'll see why. So in any Gemini's chart, you have to get depth. You have to bring Saturn to bring quality and depth and consistency. Saturn, Scorpio, these are the Taurus. These are the kind of energies in the zodiac that give you depth, focus, and a center. The man has no center. This is why he can't stay on one subject. This is why I can't give you an opinion. They are not made to take a position. Look around you, make a list of the 10 Geminis you know, and ask yourself, are these people able to take a position? In most cases, 90% of the time, they cannot take a position because they're not made to. And why do they not take a position? Because if they take a position here, then they can't be here. Much like Libra, air signs. If you take a position, it's like pinning down the butterfly. Gemini's the butterfly. And they get the fear, if you pin me here, I can't be here. And it's very important to Gemini to be able to fly anywhere you want to. But still, it's harmless. Okay? Did you ever see an interview with Bob Dylan? Very few people ever have, but he's not going to give you a straight answer, ever. He can't even give you a straight answer about the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay? All right. So let's go deeper. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the chart because we have too much to talk about. You put Uranus right next to his sun. He's born with Uranus right by. Uranus is a brilliant planet. And in Gemini, it's got thousands of ideas quick. And that's what makes him say, I want to be unpredictable. And he thinks on his feet, boom, 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 boom. And he can just talk his way out of anything. He's quick. He's fast. This is where all those really bizarre Cheshire cat grins come out of his face. This is where it comes from. And you put the whole thing opposite a moon in Sag. Now you got yourself a slippery dude. You got yourself a used car salesman because it's just getting too strong. We're not at the center of the chart yet, plus there isn't one. This is a main part of his chart. But this is not uncommon. You see this happen in people's charts. The moon is by itself, and when the moon is by itself, it makes him very Cancerian. This is why he's thin-skinned. This is why he gets his feelings hurt so easily, because the moon is so sensitive. Please don't hurt me. Look here, this marvelous Jupiter, Chiron, Neptune, which many wonderful people, wonderful artists had in 1945, 46. This triad of planets is just wonderfully talented with great charisma. And one can say he's got great charisma in a lot of ways. The whole damn world's watching nothing but him. He must have some kind of charisma. But here comes the zinger, the Mars and Leo. Mars and Leo on the ascendant. Mars and Leo, when it's on the ascendant, gets drawn this big. I will do what I say I'm going to do. I speak with great confidence. I will build a damn wall, and they will pay for it. It's very, very confident. And in many ways, he's going to do what he says he's going to do. Now, the wavering part of him, if he wavers, is all a Gemini Sag. It wavers because it sounded good at the moment. I mean, that's Sagittarius. Hey, I'll help you move on Friday. You got the rider truck, and he shows up Friday. Oh, man, it's too much work. I'm out of here. What's Sag known for? Promise, don't deliver. Promise, don't deliver. You don't have to be an expert with an eyeglass looking to his past to see this history, but still we're not at the heart of the chart. So the Mars and Leo is don't F with me. I will show you. I will get you. He's tough. He's strong. He's pseudo-strong. And I'm going to show you how pseudo-strength throughout astrology has messed with us from time's beginning. The secret to his chart is this. Right there. Venus and Saturn together in Cancer. Venus and Saturn together in Cancer. Venus. Now, if you got Venus and Saturn, it doesn't mean you have it like he does, so don't freak out. You got to put the whole picture together. Venus and Saturn. Venus is your receptive quality. In Cancer, it means, oh, I'll receive you, but you better be nice and come in and clean your shoes off and come in and wear your white gloves and be nice to me and be very kind, right? And Saturn's next to it in Cancer, which is I'm going to be really, really careful about how I accept you. What's he always saying? They treated me nice. They weren't fair. They were nice. They weren't fair. They didn't say nice things. You're not allowed in. You're not allowed in. You can't come in. Very childlike quality. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is a big deal. Why I'm sure of it. I do a lot of work with a lot of people. And the number one thing we talk about is life direction. What do I have to do to get on with my life direction? I've come up with something very exciting. I'm still doing great research on it, and I won't write about it until I'm even more sure, but I'm pretty convinced. I'm pretty convinced that all of us, I'm a little hesitant to say all of us, but I'm close. All of us are always doing one thing. It looks different, but it's always one thing. It appears that way. And it's not the sun sign. Sometimes it's indicated by early trauma in the chart. Many, many times it's not the sun sign. Venus, Saturn, his sensitivity is about not being loved. I'm not loved. And when a Venus in Cancer, or when a Cancer energy, think of the Cancers you know. When a Cancer energy is not loved, you will pay the price. You didn't give me what I need. You're going to pay the price. You're supposed to take care of me. You didn't give me what I need. And the reason that they can harp on you and lie across your lap like a wet blanket is because they can't handle it. They're so afraid of not being able to rise up and help themselves like a Virgo can. They would rather turn around and dump it on you. This is why many parents have trouble with Cancer children who had failure to succeed, failure to thrive. Not all of them, of course. Most of them are great, but this is a Cancer problem. They don't have any faith in themselves, and their only recourse is, you've got to save me. This is the heart of Mr. Trump, the heart of his chart. Now, I'm going to stop and tell you a story and come back to this. On the day that Pluto entered Capricorn, once every 250 years, on January the 25th, at 9:30 at night on a Friday, I had a woman come see me that day. So she was coming on the very last minute of Pluto in Sagittarius, 2959. Older lady, very nice, double Gemini, grandmother. She was afraid that she was no longer able to see her grandchildren. The daughter-in-law had ruled her out forever. She still, to this day, has not seen her grandchildren. An awful situation. She's been forbidden to see her grandchildren. And the grandmother is sure that the daughter-in-law is raising the grandchildren with Satanism. Welcome, Pluto and Capricorn on that day. Hello, Carla. My point is this. Okay, that's heavy duty. That's heavy duty. So I started looking through this woman's history. When she was 12, this woman was 70. When this woman was 12 years of age, she witnessed her father shoot her mother in the head twice with a gun. She was 12, and she was in the same room, and she saw mom get shot twice in the head. The mother survived. The father didn't go to jail. And she ended up living with him. So you can imagine what that's like. So it is my opinion from that case forward, from what I have studied, this woman is 70, so we're talking about 58 years on after the shooting. This woman is doing one thing at all times. At all times, she's doing one thing. And it looks like other things. She's trying to stop Dad from shooting Mom. Traumas make an emotional impact on our emotional center. And most of us, most of the charts I've done, I go back to age 5, 2, 3, 4, 7, and I find an emotional impact. And these are all set up ahead of time before you take this lifetime. All the players agree to their role and the timing. This woman spends her life now. What is she doing? She's trying to help parents who've lost their kids to Satanism. So in my opinion, what she's doing is she's finding ways to stop people from shooting the other. That's how it looks. Now, she does it in a Gemini way, because she's a Gemini. So she does it by publishing data and spreading out data, dispersing data, talking to people, communicating. So what my opinion, therefore, of Mr. Trump is, hello, Miss Linda, is Mr. Trump is doing this constantly. I don't care what you're saying or what he's lecturing to, who's in the audience, he doesn't even see it. He's doing this to his mom. You didn't give me what I needed. I wasn't loved, and I will show you. I will show you. I will build a bigger tower. I don't care. I'll build a wall. Blah, 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 all this hubris. That's my opinion where it comes from, and that's what matters. And when that Venus and Saturn gets hit, is when you're going to see the turning point. And it was just hit recently, about a month ago. What I think happened, this is really far out, but I'm going to stick to my guns. What I think happened when that Venus and Saturn got hit, I believe he splintered even into smaller pieces. He became even more unreal. And when you're threatened that much inside, you have to come out bigger with your story. You have to come out bigger. When Leo energies are threatened, Leos get bigger. They puff up bigger. This is what I think is happening. I do not think the man is capable of running the presidency. I do think that he will run this country just like he ran Trump Tower. I don't see how he can do otherwise. The question is, how much will his handlers get to him? He's got a huge party behind him. It becomes very big and very complex. What is he going to do? He's got the strong Uranus in his chart, which means I've got to do things my way. So how much is that going to come into play? You can clearly see where Mr. Trump started to behave himself a lot in the last couple of weeks, which some might say is what got him the election. He started to zip it a little bit and let Hillary take some notches going downward. So anyhow, I hope I'm wrong, but this is why I believe he has no center. He has no central part that governs. That's why he makes a statement one day, the next day changes to this, then to that. Oh, I was just kidding. That's clearly one energy of the zodiac. Sagittarius. It's the moon and Sag. Oh, I was just kidding. Oh, I was just kidding. I didn't mean that. Grabbed him by the crotch. Oh, I didn't mean that. That's just boy talk. Yeah, that's Sagittarian energy. So, he remains to be seen. He's just starting. It's going to be a wild ride, let alone talking about the House and the Senate, and all three are Republican. We'll see what they can do. There's a lot at stake. Cultural changes. We have a lot to do to change our perspective. If you have been lucky enough to watch Michael Moore's movie,
Where to Invade Next?
Thank you very much. Where to Invade Next? An awful title because it implies war. It wasn't about war. It was about we've come up with principles in America we never followed through and other countries in Europe have. So he goes to visit Finland and Germany and Italy, and he sees that they've taken our principles and they have developed our principles, while we have in like more modern attitudes towards jailing people, and more attitudes towards schooling and how you take time off from work, etc. So he went to these countries and put the flag down to conquer them, to bring those qualities back to the country. That's what we meant by the war. But what I noticed was this. In Germany, they have these kids in school from grade 1 learning about the 30s and 40s and what happened to our mindset, what happened to us collectively. They not only went wrong then, they went wrong in 1914, trying to conquer the world twice. So they have taught their kids, where did we go wrong? And these kids are learning from it in a humble, educated fashion. And I ask you, what are we doing with our kids with American Indian genocide? We're teaching them the exact opposite. The Indians were bad. We had to get rid of these savages. It's a ridiculous, backward mentality, and I think you're starting to see that turnaround too. We need to teach our kids and ourselves where this came from. And this is not conducive to a cancer country. Cancers are not intuitive. I'm sorry, they're not introspective. They don't want to know what the truth is. They want to know what makes them safe. Everything has a filter. Is this going to make me safe? Is this going to make me feel better? Or else I don't want to hear it. That's the stereotype. That's the archetype of cancer. Of course, some cancers can handle it. Some of them can't. So we can take lessons and learn from what the Germans have done with their own. And we can start to heal this ridiculous thing that's going on in North Dakota. My question to you, among others, is what are we doing? What do we do in this country besides distract ourselves? What do we do besides watch movies and distract ourselves? What do we do? I'm just putting some questions out there. I think it's starting, and I think groups like this are exciting, and we're going to start revving things up. This talk of a wall. What do you think would happen in your body? I mean, a body's a microcosm. A country is a macrocosm. What do you think would happen in your body if you started erecting walls? It don't work. You die. Limbs fall off. We know a wall's not going to work. We are out there trying to stop ISIS. Well, ISIS is in one place. It's splintering everywhere. What else choice do they have? We need to rewind and go back to our mentality and not give them excuses, but to see what have we caused that has contributed to this. Change our mindset. And I want to get through some of my points here rather quickly because I do want to open this up to group talk. I want to show you 3 really quick charts that I think are very amazing. I want to show you 3 charts. I want to show you one of the problems with the American mindset. The NRA, the Tea Party, Trump winning the presidency. Okay, this is the actual win at 2:33 in the morning after the night of the election. We see the Jupiter-Uranus opposition. Hello, Melody. And we see the Jupiter opposite to Uranus, the T-squared of Pluto. But what do we see here? What do we see? We see a moon, Neptune, in Pisces. A moon, Neptune, in Pisces in the 6th house. Chiron's not far away. But this moon, Neptune, is 6 degrees away, which insinuates to me that it's going to be 6 months down the road before the event happens. And this clearly is mass delusion to the public. Pulling a mask, pulling the wool over the eyes of the public is what this means. On the positive side, it means that we can become more intuitive as a nation, but I don't think that's the translation we're looking for here. I think we have to really watch this chart. It looks to me like the other shoe might drop in 6 months' time, which takes us from November into May. So we will look and see. Saturn and Venus are too far apart for me to be concerned, but you have a very powerful, clear T-square of Jupiter, Uranus, down to the Pluto, the plutocracy. This meaning of this degree is all about maintaining rituals in the country. The next chart, fascinating. Look at the NRA, a very powerful chart. You cannot knock them off the mountain. They're very strong. Moon, Uranus across the ascendant. Moon, Uranus, Jupiter means they are fanatical about their gun. Fanatical. Okay? And they're very strong. Mars, Saturn, and Capricorn. And the Sun opposite Pluto. Over my dead hands. They're really into their guns. They're really, really fanatical about it. But the problem is where we get into the word now of austerity. You're going to see this with the Tea Party too. Saturn Mars is a militaristic symbol. Great stamina. Shut off the feelings. Stand your ground. Get down in that foxhole and get ready for battle. Look at the Tea Party. The Tea Party has this fanatical Uranus, 4 planets in Aquarius. You got excited body of people working together, fanatical, strong philosophy, belief system, but the whole chart is based on Saturn in Virgo retrograde opposite Venus. And that means the problem is there's too much whining in this country. There's too much food in this country. There's too many food stamps in this country. Let's just stop this giveaway program. What is this? Go out and get a job. Austerity. This is austerity. The NRA's chart is austerity. Now, there's a place for austerity when there's waste. Yes. But not when there's black women falling over dead in the ER room. Not when there's kids starving in the streets. We're going too far with this. Austerity is not the problem we see in European countries like Greece that tried it and failed. Austerity is not the answer. You know yourself, you have to kind of blend all these energies for a healthy personality. I was investigating today, going through some of Melody's. Melody helps me with my newsletters. Going through some of the older newsletters. And what I found through researching politicians, you won't believe this, but guess what sign is most common? We all have planets in Taurus and Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. Guess what sign is the most prevalent by far when you analyze a successful politician? Taurus. You wouldn't believe that because Taurus is not a universal mind. It's very down to earth. But it's Taurus energy that gives McConnell. McConnell's a Pisces. Would you believe that? With 5 planets in Taurus. Other people in the Senate who've been there, they have the strength and the stamina to put up with all this junk. You can't knock them over. They're tough, strong. This is where I get to the fact of what I call pseudo-strong. The sheep love pseudo-strong. Now, there's strength, and then there's pseudo-strong. You have to look with a fine eye to see which is which. The following people are fixed signs. Fixed signs are tough and strong, and they dig in. Scorpios, the Tauruses, the Leos, the Aquarians. These are just some people I dug up. Lenin, Russian Lenin, Tito, Hitler, Malcolm X, Marx, Ho Chi Minh, Teddy Roosevelt, FDR, Lincoln, Saddam Hussein, Khomeini, Jim Jones, Castro. People like following somebody who's strong and unyielding because it makes them feel more stable. You know, most of us we're in our mind and we're trying to make decisions and we're helter-skelter and we're not sure of ourselves. When you get with somebody who's strong, It makes you feel stronger. By God, they sound sure. And if you've ever go to the Holocaust Museum in D.C., and here's why. Not to see the gory stuff and the shoes piled up in one room and the eyeglasses in one room, but because they put the main focus on the newspapers in the 30s. You see all the original newspapers, the slow propaganda that took over these people's minds by this mindset. And as you go through the rooms, you start to see the models of the furnaces, and you see the glasses and suitcases and all the awful reminders. And as you go, each room gets smaller. You end up in a train car. So it's a very good education, mainly because it shows you how the mindset came about. A lot of the things that you're hearing from the Trump mindset are reoccurring. So we go back to what Rick Levine said. It's evolution happening on one hand, and the dinosaurs are dying out on the other. The corruption is going bad on the one side, the evolution is rising on the other, let alone divine intervention. I don't know what will happen. All I can say is we have a room full of very nice people who I assume are doing lots of good things, who have big hearts, who are trying to help. We are at a very big turning point. So what do you do in my final phase here? In my final phase of this discussion, I want to keep an eye on him. Once he starts to stray, I'm going to do everything I can to press impeachment of the man, because I think he's dangerous, and until proven wrong, I got my eye on him. Why? Because it's been his history. Okay, I hope he succeeds. I hope we succeed through him. We've seen many, I'll end it on this point here. We've seen many hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of decay. And I have likened that to a man on an operating table, and we've opened the man up and we found cancer. We've found cancer. We found cancer. And this is what's happening to the collective body since 2008. Well, I ask you, how much can the body take? How much can it take? Now, I don't know what the answer is, because I do believe in magic, and I do believe in God's input, and I do believe in the human spirit, and I do believe in us. But I do know that we got to change our tune. We've got to include everybody. There was so much violence today on Facebook of the Republicans versus the Democrats and the Trump and the non-Trumps. Whatever. We've got to start to bring peace to ourselves, to each other. I wrote a note to somebody today about, I'm sure that millions of the Trump voters are great people. And she said, yeah, well, great people voting for hate. I said, that's ridiculous. They didn't get up in the morning and say, how can I vote for the guy with the most hate? A lot of them are voting against Hillary. That's their prerogative. But the point is, we have to start to heal. We don't really feel like it yet because it's shocking. But I'm sure you all have your ideas, and I'm going to open the microphone to you.